who do dispatchers typically have conflicts with? The question is not too complicated. With the driver of the truck, with the owner of the trucking company, that is a direct employer or customer of the dispatcher, and of course with the broker. I think it will make sense to divide the lesson into 3 parts and consider the most frequent conflicts with each of the parties separately. Let's start with the brokers. There is definitely something to talk about. So, situation 1, your driver has already started moving towards the pickup location or even arrived at the pickup facility, and the broker, for any reason, cancelled the load. Here is a possible solution. In this case, the dispatcher has the right to request compensation from the broker, called truck order not used, abbreviated as TONU. Essentially, this is a cancellation fee paid directly to the carrier when the shipment is cancelled at the last moment. There are many possible reasons why this may happen. However, TONU may be requested when the driver has already spent the necessary time and resources to pick up the cargo, such as drove a significant number of miles or already arrived at the facility before he found out that his load had been cancelled. In such situations, the driver should certainly get paid for this time. As with most conflicts that we'll deal with, there are a number of disagreements that may arise between you and the broker. Even in the very definition of this TONU, there are already some misunderstandings. What does significant number of miles even mean? And what if the driver has already left for the load, but there's still 5 hours before the loading time? Or what should the dispatcher do if the driver was very close to the load and in fact has not yet left for loading, but now it will be very difficult for the dispatcher to find another load? There is no unequivocal answer, but I will provide some recommendations based on experience. Firstly, most conflicts can be avoided with good communication. If you made a habit of constantly updating brokers about the location of your trucks, then it's likely that you already sent a broker update when your truck started moving towards the pickup. Therefore, you have written proof that the driver already moved for a certain amount of time, and accordingly the broker is obliged to pay the TONU. If you didn't update the broker about this, but at least you told him where your truck was located during the process of booking the load, then the decision will be made on the basis of the appropriate amount of time that it would take the driver to arrive at the pickup. For example, if the broker knew that your driver was 3 hours away from the pickup location and he cancelled the load 2 hours before the appointment, this serves as direct evidence that he must pay compensation. The standard amount of compensation is between $200 to $500, but this is not written in any law, so the amount will be the one that you agree upon with the other side. How do you request TONU? Just write an email to the broker. For example, hello, I received your message about load cancellation. The driver is already on his way to the pickup location, or you can even embellish and say, driver is already almost at the pickup location, and I would like to request a TONU in the amount of $300. Please add it to the rate confirmation. This is just a template. You can add anything there depending on how far your driver actually moved towards the pickup, what kind of relationship you have with this specific broker, and so on. The same can be done via a phone call, but I always recommend email. Having written evidence of anything is always better. If you want, you can do both. Write an email and call. That would be an ideal approach. Okay, moving on, situation number 2. A broker provided incorrect load information to a dispatcher. Solution options. This conflict may arise when certain load parameters were discussed during a phone conversation with the broker, and then when you receive a rate confirmation, these parameters are different. This isn't necessarily a serious problem. The broker could have just added wrong information to the rate con by mistake. It can be resolved by simply calling the broker back and clarifying the disparities. Be sure to check all rate confirmations carefully and compare them with your load notes. It will take an extra minute, but will save you from a whole range of issues. Now, a more serious problem comes when the parameters of the actual load the driver just picked up do not match the rate confirmation. For example, the broker declared 35,000 pounds on the weight, but the actual loaded weight was 45,000 pounds. The process of solving such an issue is the following. Once you get notice from the driver about the discrepancy, ask him to stay put until you resolve this. Additionally, ask the driver if he can send you any proof. In our example, it can be a scale ticket, a photo of the weight, a screenshot, anything. Check with the company owner or your manager, whoever is the decision maker, what they would like to do. They might refuse to hold this weight or request compensation. Then email the broker explaining what the problem is and attaching the proof if it's available. Follow the email with a phone call. During the call, don't forget to mention what a big problem this whole situation is causing to you and the driver. For example, the driver got loaded with 45,000 pounds while the rate confirmation stated 35,000 pounds. My driver never loads his truck with so much weight and my boss doesn't want to move this load. I can convince him to move this load, but I'm going to need a small compensation, at least extra $300. Or here's another example on a similar topic. The rate confirmation stated a 1 p.m. appointment, but the facility is not expecting your driver until 4 p.m. In this case, you can write the following. My driver arrived at the delivery location, but they are telling him that his appointment is at 4 p.m., not 1 p.m. This is a huge problem for us because the driver will be late for his next load. I'm going to need a compensation of at least $300. In both examples, we briefly described the problem, explained the consequences of it, and requested compensation. There are no specific guides for the amount of this compensation, just like always, it's going to be what you agree upon. If you're not sure how much money to request, consult with the owner of the truck. He will definitely have his own opinion on this matter. Situation 3. A fairly typical issue that arises in a dispatcher's day-to-day is related to lumper fee payment. This payment is only required in facilities where loading and unloading of the trucks are performed by a third-party company, not the shipper or receiver themselves. In Module 3 we explored that a lumper fee can be paid in several ways: debit or credit card, cash, or by electronic check, such as ComCheck, T-Check, or similar. In essence, it's simple. Either the driver pays on the spot with cash or card, and the broker adds that amount to the rate confirmation, or the broker sends a code to the dispatcher for the electronic check, the dispatcher hands it to the driver, and the driver passes it to the lumper. But conflicts arise too often not to talk about it. A difficult situation may happen if, for example, the driver doesn't have cash on him and lumpers don't accept card payments, and the broker refuses to pay by check. Or when the unloading is at night and the broker doesn't pick up the phone, the driver doesn't have cash, and we're back in the same situation. The sole and the most effective solution to potential problems related to lumpers would be to discuss this payment at the time of booking the shipment. Just ask the broker, are there going to be any lumper fees? Or will you be paying for the lumpers by check? And do the same with the owner of the truck when starting to work with them. Just ask, is the driver going to be able to pay lumper fees if needed? By checking this in advance, you'll save yourself from unnecessary arguments, late night phone calls, and so on. Situation number 4. The receiver rejected part of the cargo due to poor quality, damage, or any other reason. Most often this situation happens when working with reefer trailers. This, of course, should immediately be reported to the broker, and he in turn will consult with his customer. In the best case scenario, if the recipient rejects a small portion of the product, such as maybe a couple boxes, the broker will typically simply ask you to get rid of it. A typical term for this is dump or donate. In case the receiver rejects the whole load, or at least a substantial part of it, things could become more complicated. It's important to understand that during loading, the driver doesn't have access to the product. It's usually packed in boxes and then loaded onto pallets. The driver may have to count the quantity of the pallets and compare it with what's listed on the bill of lading, but he cannot assess the quality of the product. The product could be spoiled because of the carrier's fault if the temperature on the reefer is set incorrectly, or if there is a malfunction of the refrigerating unit. Most modern refrigerating units are equipped with a computerized temperature monitoring system. If a conflict arises, the broker may request a temperature report. That's something you can request from the driver and then send it to the broker for inspection. If it turns out that the driver is really at fault, the company owner will have a problem. The broker will file a claim with the carrier's insurance company. If the accident is covered by the insurance, compensation will be paid. If not, the broker may sue the carrier for the damage amount. The earnings with a reefer trailer are higher, but so are the risks. As a dispatcher, the only thing you can do in this situation is to assist the owner of the trucking company in every way possible and to facilitate the communication with the broker. A good lawyer is more helpful in dealing with such a complicated situation than a dispatcher. And situation 5, dispatcher errors. To finalize this topic, let's talk about problems caused by errors of the dispatcher. There are many examples. Dispatcher miscalculated the mileage and assumed the wrong rate per mile. Or dispatcher didn't check the driver's working hours and he couldn't get to the delivery on time. Or dispatcher failed to notify broker of driver's delay, resulting in driver missing his appointment. What else? Dispatcher indicated wrong location in driver instructions and he arrived at the wrong place. Or dispatcher didn't come to an arrangement with his client and had to cancel the shipment, etc., etc. The list can go on and on. The consequences can also be very diverse. From lost time and money to negative comments about the carrier and the appearance of the carrier in the broker's blacklist. Of course, these issues can be avoided by being more careful, focused and concentrated, but nobody is perfect. If the mishap was your fault, try to resolve the situation through personal contact. Find a way to apologize and give a proper explanation which will make it easier for the other side to understand your position and avoid accusations of negligence. It's better to be honest and accept your fault than to lie and try to trick your way out of it. Here are just a couple phrases to help you. You can say, "It's my bad. I had a difficult day and made a mistake. I hope we can find a solution." Or, "My apologies, I misplayed some information which led to this problem. Is there any way I can make it up to you?" Or just, "Sorry, this is my fault. I promise I will do everything I can to resolve this issue." It's that simple. Remember, a dispatcher is not financially liable for any operational errors. The absolute worst thing that can happen to you is getting fired or losing a client.